Welcome to Stories I Know. If you're just joining us, we would love for you to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. In just a fleeting moment, we find the spark that drives us to weave even more tales. Kindly give this video a thumbs up, and now, let us embark on the tale. I never imagined I would become the type of woman who would break the promises I made on my wedding day. I once held a deep faith in loyalty, in the revered connection of marriage, and in the conviction that love could carry two individuals through any challenge. As I sit here now, contemplating all that has brought me to this moment, I understand that existence is much more intricate than the straightforward beliefs we hold dear. I'm Rachel, and I've shared a decade of marriage with David. We crossed paths in college, and at that time, he embodied everything I believed I desired in a partner. Compassionate, dependable, and unwavering. He wasn't the kind of person to whisk me away in a whirlwind of romance, yet he created a sense of security around me. Having been raised in a tumultuous environment where affection seemed erratic and transient, what I yearned for above all was a sense of security. David and I crafted a life together, a fulfilling one. Our home was a haven of warmth, our careers flourished, and our social circle brimmed with friends who looked up to the resilience of our union. To the casual observer, we appeared to be the ideal couple. Yet, within the confines of those closed doors, the reality was far from the illusion of perfection. David had consistently embraced a life of structure, a person who flourished in the comfort of the familiar. Initially, I discovered it to be quite soothing. Yet, as time went on, it began to feel stifling. Our discussions grew monotonous, our evenings out transformed into mere routine, and the fervor that once united us had slipped away into a faint recollection. I attempted to convince myself that this was typical, that all marriages experience their ups and downs, yet beneath the surface, I sensed a profound ache, a yearning for something elusive and undefined. And then, there was Jake. Jake was David's cousin, yet in numerous aspects, he stood as his total antithesis. He embraced spontaneity and adventure, effortlessly transforming even the simplest moments into thrilling experiences. After years spent living across the country, he returned to our city, and David, with his strong sense of family, embraced him wholeheartedly. From the instant I encountered Jake, I sensed a transformation within me. It transcended mere attraction. It was a profound connection that awakened a sense of vitality within me that I hadn't experienced in years. I attempted to dismiss it, shoving the emotions away as if they were merely a passing infatuation. Ultimately, my affection for my husband was profound. I had crafted a life alongside him. Yet, the more moments I shared with Jake, the more difficult it became to ignore the attraction I sensed toward him. It began in a simple way, with family gatherings, group outings, and casual conversations that stretched on just a bit too long. He possessed a talent for bringing laughter to my lips, gazing at me as if I were the most captivating individual present. For the first time in years, I experienced the sensation of being truly acknowledged. I reassured myself that it was innocent, that I could relish his attention without overstepping any boundaries. Yet, the reality was that I had already traversed one. I began to draw comparisons. I began to observe all the ways Jake contrasted with David, the way he listened with genuine interest, the way he pushed me to think deeper, the way he made me feel valued beyond the mere duties of a wife fulfilling obligations. It was on a particular evening, when David found himself working late, that the first genuine moment of vulnerability emerged. In the cozy confines of his parents' home, a small family gathering unfolded, leaving Jake and me to share a moment in the quiet of the backyard. The warmth of the air enveloped the scene, while the night remained tranquil, punctuated only by the gentle serenade of crickets. Have you ever pondered how different your life might have turned out if you had chosen a different path? He inquired, his tone soft and contemplative. I paused, contemplating my next move. I make an effort to avoid getting caught up in hypothetical scenarios. He gazed at me then, truly gazed at me, and I felt my breath hitch. I do, he confessed, more than I ought to. The manner in which he expressed it, the intensity of his gaze locked onto mine, made it clear that our conversation transcended mere generalities about life. His words carried an undercurrent, a depth I wasn't certain I was prepared to confront. I ought to have turned away at that moment, to have put an end to whatever silent connection was starting to develop between us, yet I chose not to. I allowed myself to revel in the emotions he stirred within me, feeling cherished, wanted, and vibrantly alive. That night was devoid of any tangible events, yet an unspoken change occurred between us, an unseen boundary etched in the sand that we both recognized we were perilously near to crossing. Once that boundary was established, it became impossible to overlook. In the coming weeks, the situation escalated significantly. Each look, each exchange of words, every unintentional brush of skin seemed to pulse with an inexplicable intensity. I reassured myself that I held the reins of the situation, that I would never truly act in a way that would betray David. Yet, the reality was that I had already begun to betray him within my heart. It was a rainy afternoon when everything shifted irrevocably. While I was out taking care of some errands, I unexpectedly bumped into Jake at a coffee shop. It was entirely spontaneous, yet the moment I laid eyes on him, a familiar flutter ignited in my chest. "You seem like you could use some company," he remarked, motioning toward the vacant chair opposite me. I ought to have declined. I ought to have walked away. Instead, I nodded, and he took a seat, his presence exuding a mix of comfort and danger simultaneously. We conversed for hours on a myriad of topics, delving into dreams and regrets, exploring the hidden facets of ourselves that we kept from the outside world. In that quiet moment, he extended his hand across the table, his fingers lightly grazing against mine. It was merely a trivial detail, appearing utterly inconsequential. Yet, in that fleeting moment, clarity struck me. This was more than a mere flirtation. It was something genuine. I found myself at a loss for how to bring it to a halt. The experience in the coffee shop lingered in my mind. The gentle caress of Jake's fingers against my own. The quiet recognition that a change had occurred between us. It was a flicker that had the potential to ignite into a raging inferno if I didn't tread lightly. Still, I found myself uncertain about sharing it. In the initial days that followed, I attempted to persuade myself that it held no significance. It was merely a brief lapse in strength. A chapter one could leave behind if I dedicated my attention to my marriage. Indeed, I followed through. I took a deliberate step to engage more fully with David, aiming to rekindle the connection that had faded between us over time. I organized special evenings, inquired about his day with greater excitement, and put in the effort to show more affection. Yet, there was an absence that lingered. David, with his kind and reliable nature, always appeared oblivious to the fact that I was facing difficulties. He appeared to be relieved that I had ceased my distant behavior, thinking that whatever had troubled me had merely faded away. Perhaps that was the issue at hand. He never inquired about what was troubling me. He never considered whether there was something lacking for me as well. In contrast, Jake observed every detail. 1 week following the coffee shop incident, I encountered him once more at a family gathering. As David engaged in a lively discussion with his uncle, I found myself standing solitary by the patio when Jake made his way towards me. "You've been steering clear of me," he remarked, his tone soft yet resolute. I stole a quick glance at him before swiftly averting my gaze. "I've had a lot on my plate lately." He released a gentle chuckle, devoid of any genuine mirth. Indeed, a stillness enveloped us, a weighty quiet that lingered, brimming with all the unspoken words hanging in the air. Then, before I could hold back, I murmured, "This can't happen, Jake." He let out a breath, his fingers tangling in his hair. "I understand." And still, we remained exactly as we were, neither of us choosing to leave. That night, I found myself wide awake in bed beside David, my gaze fixed on the ceiling, consumed by a sense of being the most terrible person imaginable. I had no intention of causing my husband any pain. I never wanted to become the type of woman who would betray the one with whom I had constructed a life. Yet, I couldn't overlook the emotions that surged within me whenever Jake was near. I reassured myself that as long as there were no tangible actions taken, I wasn't truly crossing any lines. Yet, beneath the surface, I was aware of the truth. Emotional betrayal was equally harmful, if not more so. I had already plunged into the depths. A few weeks later, the breaking point arrived. On a Saturday afternoon, David was away, attending a work conference out of town. I had intended to dedicate the day to running errands, but destiny had different ideas. Jake reached out, his tone uncertain. "May we have a conversation?" I ought to have declined, yet I ended up giving my consent. We gathered in a serene park on the fringes of town, shielded from curious gazes. It seemed as though we were stepping over yet another boundary, one that we both understood was off-limits. "I can't get you out of my mind," he confessed, his gaze locked onto mine. "I understand that this is not right, and we shouldn't experience these feelings, yet ignoring it doesn't make it disappear." I took a deep breath, my heart racing in my chest. "Jake, this situation, whatever it may be, simply cannot occur." He nodded with deliberation. "I understand, yet my feelings remain unchanged." I averted my gaze, focusing on the trees dancing in the breeze, sensing the earth below me was in motion. "I'm at a loss, just as you are." We lingered in silence, the air thick with unspoken words, each of us hesitant to voice our true desires. In that stillness, he took my hand, not with urgency or fervor, but with a gentle touch, conveying an unvoiced promise, a mutual comprehension. I ought to have stepped back, yet I remained. I shut my eyes, allowing myself to savor the warmth of his skin against mine, if only for a fleeting moment, just one fleeting moment. And I was aware. This was not an experience I could simply leave behind. I found myself captivated by him, and I was at a loss for how to put an end to it. The experience in the park lingered in my mind long after I had departed. As I made my way home and stepped into the house I had created with David, the lingering sensation of Jake's hand in mine remained heavy in my thoughts. I sensed I was teetering on the brink of something perilous, something that had the potential to unravel everything I held dear. And yet, the idea of never encountering Jake again, of acting as if none of this had ever transpired, felt insufferable. In the days that followed, I made an effort to proceed as though everything remained the same. I prepared dinner, engaged in light conversation with David, and maintained the familiar rhythms of my daily existence. Yet deep down, I sensed I was trapped in a facade. Jake and I remained silent, yet our understanding was unspoken. Whenever we found ourselves in the same space, each look and every pause between us conveyed more than any spoken language ever could. Then, one evening, all the tensions reached their peak. David and I received an invitation to his parents' home for dinner, a cozy family gathering. I was aware that Jake would be present, yet I reassured myself that I could manage the situation. I have the potential to be strong. Yet, the instant I laid eyes on him, I realized the truth I had been denying. He glanced my way, if only for a fleeting moment, yet it held all the weight in the world. Just enough to bring to the forefront all that I had been attempting to overlook. As the night wore on, a sense of suffocation enveloped me. Each laugh, each conversation, every moment spent feigning contentment felt like a burden bearing down on me. At a certain moment, I ventured outside to catch my breath. In just a heartbeat, Jake appeared. "Are you all right?" he inquired gently. I released a trembling sigh. "Negative." He nodded, conveying an impression of complete understanding of my words. "I can't continue down this path," I murmured. "I can no longer maintain the facade that everything is fine." His jaw clenched. "I can't either." We lingered in that moment, the distance between us shrinking with every heartbeat. And then, before I could hold back any longer, I uttered the words I had been too hesitant to express. "I hold deep emotions for you." I had been evading this truth for what felt like an eternity. Jake let out a sigh, his shoulders sagging as though he had been waiting for this moment to release the tension. "My emotions for you are mutual, Rachel." The atmosphere surrounding us buzzed with unspoken words and hidden emotions. And for a fleeting instant, I considered the possibility, perhaps, just perhaps, that I might relent. Yet, the melody of laughter floated in from within. The resonance of my husband's voice. The weight of reality hit me like a crashing wave. I took a step back, my head shaking in disbelief. "This is beyond my capabilities, Jake." His expression dimmed, yet he gave a nod. "I understand." My eyes stung with unshed tears. My affection for my husband knows no bounds. I can't cause him pain in this way. Jake gazed at me intently for what felt like an eternity, then gently reached out, tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear. The touch was gentle, filled with a profound sense of sorrow. "You have a kind heart, Rachel," he murmured softly. "That's why you must step away." I forced down the tightness in my throat and stepped back once more. And then, I faced the most challenging moment of my life. I turned and left. It was quite a challenge. The emotions didn't vanish in an instant. There were days when his absence weighed heavily on my heart. Yet, I was certain that my decision was the correct one. Love transcends mere fleeting emotions. It revolves around the decisions you face each and every day. I decided to uphold the promises I had made, despite the pain it caused me.